My name is Lauren and I'm a third, almost fourth year medical student. If you are new here, and if you're not new, then welcome back. Today, if you can't tell by the title, I am bringing you a video that honestly is a med student's dream. I am so excited and honestly honored to be able to say that this video is sponsored by McGraw-Hill Education. Thank you so much for sponsoring this video. If you don't know by name who McGraw-Hill Education is, then you'll definitely know by the products that they've made. They are the makers of the Med Student Bible. Actually, let me go grab mine so you can really see the visual. This is the Med Student Bible that I'm talking about. These are the makers of First Aid, and they are also the makers of the very popular resource, Boards and Beyond. They have launched a new resource in 2023 called First Aid Forward. First Aid Forward is a digital USMLE study resource that brings the trusted, high-yield, and student-reviewed first aid content along with targeted quizzes onto an immersive digital platform that students can tailor to their unique needs, better positioning them to master the USMLE content. The overall goal for First Aid Forward is to enhance classroom performance, help students pass USMLE exams, and excel in clinical rotations. I have been testing out First Aid Forward for about a week, and I'm excited to show you a little demonstration so you can see everything that it can do. Okay, so I have my First Aid Forward opened up here, and the first thing that I want to show you is the clinical knowledge textbook. So the clinical knowledge textbook assists you in strengthening your medical foundation. You can see here it's broken down by organ system and then disease, which is so helpful. Let's go to lupus, for example. So you can see here that there's a definition and then things that you'll see during the history and the physical, and then some very helpful mnemonics of symptoms that can help you recall, and even some related labs and antibodies and treatments. Another one that I really liked was cirrhosis, which if you've seen my hepatology video, you know that I think cirrhosis is a really interesting disease. You can see there's figures. This one is so helpful. Tables and charts. Another thing that I wanted to show you that is applicable to all the textbooks is you can annotate anything, like to your heart's desire. I am not someone who can write in a physical textbook. It just pains me, but digital annotations are perfect because they just don't look messy. You can see here, I have underlined this. You can highlight anything. And then you have all of these options here. I've done a few more annotations as we scroll down. For spontaneous bacterial peritonitis, I added a little note to myself. Most common infections are from gram-negative rods. I've highlighted hepatic encephalopathy. And I've boxed this section right here on treatment for hepatorenal syndrome. I'll just show you an example. You can circle things, you can change the color, you can do whatever you want to do. And because I just love cirrhosis, you can even add a place mark for a page. So I place mark cirrhosis and I can always go back to these little tabs, click something that I'm struggling with or something that I just want to keep reviewing over and over again and easily get to it without going through the table of contents. Another thing that I love about this textbook is the rapid review. I actually use the rapid review in this book the day before taking step 1. So it's nice to see that they've continued on with the rapid review in First Aid Forward. You can see the one side kind of has not really a question, but along the lines, and then the other side is of course the answer. I think it's really great because you can also cover one side of the screen just to kind of make it more of an active recall review. And then the last thing that I think is really cool in this book is that it shows you top rated review resources broken down by specialty. Right now I'm in my family medicine rotation, so let's click family medicine. It's broken down by specialty and then further broken down by grades based on med student reviews, which I think is so helpful if you're feeling lost on additional resources that you can use during a rotation. The next thing that I want to show you is the clinical algorithms textbook. This helps you build differential diagnoses, decide which labs and imaging to order, and even which specialists that you need to refer your patient to based on their symptom presentation. This, for me, is where First Aid Forward shines and stands out as a unique resource. I have found a couple of resources that break down clinical reasoning, but none to this level of detail. So I'm gonna go back to cirrhosis. Sorry, not sorry. But I just think because it's so complicated, it's a really good one to visualize. Someone comes in with ascites and then you can really break down based on how the presentation and how their results unfold, what to do next, especially with something as complicated as like a paracentesis and a SAG. It can all get very confusing. And I think that this chart really breaks things down so well. It even tells you refer to cardiology if they're having a heart issue along with their ascites. If you hear any noises, Vaco is going crazy in the background. If the SAG showed low protein, get an abdominal ultrasound with Dopplers. I mean, it's just really, really cool. And then it further goes on to break down the cirrhosis complications aside from ascites. So the first section is all about ascites, and then it talks about spontaneous bacterial peritonitis and all of these things. Another one that I really like that I'm constantly mixing up is meningitis. Trying to remember how to analyze cerebrospinal fluid results will forever be lost on me. I try to learn it every time and have yet to do so successfully. So I love this chart because it breaks things down based on symptoms, of course, and presentation, and then tests you should run. And then it even goes into those CSF results that are so confusing. Is anyone else confused by those? Like, I just simply cannot remember them. But maybe I don't have to because this will tell me from now on. The third textbook is the clinical pattern recognition textbook. Maybe textbook isn't the right word. It's kind of a textbook, but it's more so an online resource. I feel like textbook sounds kind of mundane, but everything in here is really high yield stuff. In the clinical pattern recognition, you get your stereotypical question vignettes and then conditions with similar presentations, tests, management, and you even get some mini cases. This is HIV and AIDS opportunistic infections. This is a really beautiful table that is basically a rapid review table. And then if I go to the next page, here's everything that I was talking about. So this is your stereotypical clinical vignette for someone who comes in with an acute HIV infection. You can click on the conditions with similar presentations, tests you should run, everything along those lines. It's so helpful. And then you can even come down here and work on some mini cases that are related to opportunistic infections, of course. So this first one is on MAC. And I think you can try to cover the name with a piece of paper or your hand or whatever. So cover this, and then you can read the key findings if you want to try to quiz yourself this way. Another one that I really liked was the skin changes. This is so helpful in something like dermatology because you have to really see pictures of things and be able to tell them apart. Such a difficult skill. So if I go to the next page, again, the whole breakdown, the case, similar conditions, and then some more mini cases. This is definitely a great one to try to quiz yourself on because you really should be able to look at the picture and the presentation and know what it is. If you feel like you're having trouble finding a topic or just want to get to something quickly, you can of course use the search bar here. Let's type in, is there an organ system that I usually neglect? The kidneys. Let's type in nephritis. Nephritis, which is such a broad word, by the way, to put in the search bar. Each textbook has nephritis results depending on what I'm trying to look up about nephritis and in what form I want to see it. Super cool. And then the last thing that I want to talk about for First Aid Forward is their question bank. So I've only had First Aid Forward for about a week, so I haven't gotten through all of the questions yet, but in that time I've done a little bit over 100 questions. And you can see here it's broken down by organ system, which is always so helpful because we all have our weak organ systems. Mine happens to be cardiology. If you click on something, it can show you the high yield topics in that specific organ system. My camera overheated, but we're back. So the question vignettes are short, which is really good for rapid, quick review. I got through 60 questions today, way quicker than I would if the vignettes were longer, which is nice. One downfall that I found with the quizzes are there's no pictures that I've seen in the first 100+ questions. So just with questions like derm or infections that have some sort of visual lesion, it's hard to fully get the diagnosis just based on the description of the lesion rather than seeing the lesion. And the questions are also not randomized, which is actually how NBME practice exams are. If you've ever noticed, they're not randomized, they're kind of in sections. But sometimes I think that because it's not randomized, it can give the answer away. Like if there's 3 questions in a row on B12 deficiency, if by the 3rd question I don't know the answer, because the last 2 are B12 deficiency, I feel like it's probably B12 deficiency again, you know? And you can't go backwards. But I think everything else with the quizzes is great. This is a new resource. I don't think everything is perfect yet, but I think they're on their way. Another first aid resource that I've used in the past, especially preparing for step 1, was Scholarly RX. So I just wanted to compare the two. I think First Aid Forward provides more ways to learn, as well as the questions are in a shorter form, more like NBME exams. So I think this is actually more suited, especially in my time of being a 3rd year going into 4th year. And again, this just came out a couple months ago, so it's so new, but I would also love to see this as an app, because I could just imagine myself seeing a patient and then quickly going to the side and going through the clinical algorithms and like getting my plan together and then looking like the perfect medical student. So for my final thoughts, I definitely recommend First Aid Forward. I think it's a great resource to use at various stages of your learning journey in medical school. If you're in your 1st and 2nd year and still building a foundation of medical knowledge, I think both the clinical knowledge and the pattern recognition would be really helpful for you. And then if you're in your 3rd or 4th year, like me, or even an intern, or even a resident. I mean, we never stop learning. This is a lifelong learning career. They've told us that a million times. I think the clinical algorithms will be amazing to use on the wards, while the pattern recognition and question bank will be great for passive and active recall. Today, I specifically was demonstrating this step 2 subscription of First Aid Forward, since I'm preparing to gear up my studying to take step 2 in the next couple months. But there's also a subscription specifically for step 1. If 1st and 2nd year students would find that more helpful, which I imagine that you would, I'd recommend checking that out. So if First Aid Forward sounds like something you'd find helpful during your medical school exams, your USMLE board exams, or your clinical rotations, I'll leave a link in the description so you can check it out and even buy it. I think it is such an amazing resource. And thank you again, McGraw-Hill Education and First Aid, for sponsoring this video. I'm so excited about this resource and this sponsorship, so I'm really appreciative. And if you like the video, then like the video. Leave any questions or comments you have about First Aid Forward in the comment section and I will answer them or provide any resources if I somehow don't know the answer. Subscribe if you haven't already subscribed, and I will see you all in the next video next week. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.